Top stories tonight. President Bola Tinubu prioritizes diplomacy for reintegration of Mali, Niger, Burkina Faso to ECOWAS as German president visits Nigeria. Court holds third sale publication of Dele Farotimi's book. National grid collapses for the 12th time in 2024. And Akufo-Addo Mahama begin transition process in Ghana. Glad you're here. My name is Felicity Ezewike. Our coverage begins in Nigeria's capital, Abuja, where President Bola Tinubu met with German President Frank-Walter Steinmeier, who is on a 3-day state visit to Nigeria. Steinmeier arrived at the State House in Abuja and was welcomed with full honors, including national anthems, a 21-gun salute, and an inspection of the Guard of Honor. The visit underscores strong Nigeria-Germany relations following recent exchanges between leaders of both nations.
A relationship on a foundation of mutual respect and understanding. Germany has de-risked the investment opportunity in energy to really help Nigeria. And I commend Germany for that effort. And we have untied all bureaucracies, maybe except one item that is remaining in the area of sustainable results, while we equally promoting the possibility of alternative source of energy. We pride ourselves in the largest producer of gas in the country. What we need to do have been discussed, and we need to strengthen the partnership for utilization of LNG as a source of supply and promotion of additional incremental value in business opportunity for Nigeria and Germany.
We have extraordinarily close ties to Nigeria, which can be seen in various formats. As far as political coordination is concerned, we have a binational commission, and we coordinate regularly on what's happening in our region and what's happening in West Africa, and promote joint policies in how to intensify bilateral relations. And second, and this is also what our close partnership is all about as well.
In the meantime, President Bola Tinubu has reaffirmed ECOWAS' commitment to the welfare of citizens of Mali, Niger, and Burkina Faso, while prioritizing diplomacy to reintegrate the nations into the Commission. During the state visit with German President Frank-Walter Steinmeier in Abuja, President Tinubu acknowledged delays in transition programs from the three nations, but emphasized ECOWAS' stance against unconstitutional governments. He assured that diplomatic efforts would continue to avoid punishing innocent citizens while maintaining free trade and movement. President Steinmeier commended ECOWAS' approach, urging continued diplomatic engagement and emergency economic plans to mitigate regional consequences. Both leaders highlighted the importance of cooperation for regional stability and economic growth. Joining us to discuss more on this is Global Affairs Analyst Ejike Opa. Ejike, thank you for joining us on the news. What are some of the areas you think that Nigeria and Germany can collaborate for all-round growth?
Well, thank you for having me. I think, Nigeria needs everything. If it's in infrastructure, it's in power, it's in, foreign direct investment. It just has to be what are they investing in, and how are those conditions and terms gonna benefit Nigeria? It's not just having dignitaries come to Nigeria. The Nigerian people have to benefit from some of these things. So maybe come next year we're gonna see the benefit. But other than that, the in and out of diplomats and VIPs coming to Nigeria so far hasn't benefited Nigeria. But then, like we say, the jury's out. We'll see what that happens. What that means come next year.
In what ways do you think this meeting between the two presidents will impact bilateral relations specifically between the two countries?
Well, Nigeria and the Germans always had a bilateral relationship. If you go way back in the 70s or 80s, I remember the first German-built assembly plant, Anamco, was in Enugu. And then, that thing has long died. And so you have, them coming back again. I don't know whether it's a renewed interest or renewed vigor. The question still has to be, how does this relationship, help Nigeria economic well-being? Nigeria is not a country that, nobody doesn't know about. Nigeria is known, but hopefully what Tinubu is doing is going to enhance credibility and confidence for people to invest in Nigeria. It is one thing to go around the world and promote Nigeria. Another thing is, do Nigerians even have confidence to invest in their own economy? You cannot, through this sort of visit, believe that all of a sudden Nigeria is going to turn around and become a giant that's supposed to be. No, the average Nigerian doesn't have confidence in the leadership of Tinubu because the economy has no, fundamentals that are even convinced the Nigerians to invest. So you go in and talk to these countries or these people that come in there who are going to look at the weakness in the system and exploit Nigerians. And oftentimes that's what is the case. But again, don't rule him out, don't discount him, and let's see what happens next year. And then maybe Tinubu has a magic wand. But so far, his trip outside of Nigeria and then those who come to reciprocate haven't done Nigeria any good.
In the context of the African Union and ECOWAS, what role could Germany possibly play in supporting regional stability or peace, for instance, particularly in the face of ongoing challenges with terrorism and political instability?
But, if you go to Germany, you see Germany is even having their own challenges, with terrorism, with immigration, and even their own economy. So now Germany wants to come in and become this, peacemaker to stabilize West Africa. Hopefully the countries, that Tinubu is reaching out to have come up with and say, hey, this is what we need and this is what we want. What I really don't understand is why African nations cannot rally amongst themselves and come up with their own solution. They always have to go seek, the West or whomever else to come in and intervene. And these people are not going to do this thing freely. There's no charity in a diplomatic relationship. There's always going to be something for them. So what does, Mali, Niger, Burkina Faso going to get out of Germany? I mean, again, it's a natural resources they have. How are they going to get access to some minerals maybe they believe is in those countries, and then they're going to now want to use Nigeria, as an access or a conduit to get to them. I think the Malian people have kicked out France, and then France is probably scrambling and looking for somebody who's going to go over there and do some bidding on their behalf, and they can sneak in back, through the back door. But so far, I believe that if ECOWAS was a vehicle or a group that has the power or the influence. They have the power, they don't have the influence. They should have been able to mediate between these countries and between the 15 West African countries and say, hey, what do you guys need? Because, if there's a problem in one part of this region, it's going to affect the other people. I'm sorry.
No, I was just trying to interject because we're out of time for this conversation, but thank you, as always, for speaking with us.
Well, thank you for having me.
Away from that, the House of Representatives has resolved to investigate alleged smuggling activities by personnel of the Nigeria Customs Service. The House took the decision at a plenary session on Wednesday following the adoption of a motion of urgent public importance sponsored by the member representing Badagry Federal Constituency, Lagos State, Oluwaseun Wingon. Wingon cited an incident involving a journalist in Badagry, Lagos, earlier this month, who was assaulted while attempting to make video recording of activities at a location he described as a smuggling zone. The lawmaker who moved the motion raised eyebrows over the behavior of custom officers. The motion has, however, been referred to the Committee on Customs and Excise. We're headed now to the north of the country, where the Emir of Kano, Muhammadu Sanusi II, has expressed the Emirates' confusion over last week's blockade of the Gaidan Rufa Palace by the security operatives. The Emir said there has been no official communication regarding the reason for the action. Speaking on Wednesday while receiving a delegation from Bichi, who came to express gratitude for the appointment of their new district head, the Emir described the incident as a distraction that would not hinder the Emirates' activities. The palace was sealed off last week by operatives of the Nigerian Police and Department of State Services, restricting movement in and out of the premises. While security agencies have remained silent on the issue, sources suggest the blockade may be connected to the scheduled installment of Munir Sanusi as the district head of Bichi, or a planned discussion on the controversial tax reform bills. Coming up, second Ukwama community leader allegedly dies in military custody. We have all the details and more when we come back. Just stay with us. If you've just joined us, you're watching Tonight. A reminder of our top stories. President Bola Tinubu prioritizes diplomacy for reintegration of Mali, Niger, Burkina Faso to ECOWAS as German president visits Nigeria. Court holds further sale publication of Deliverotimi's book. National grid collapses for the 12th time in 2024. And Akufo-Addo Mahama begin transition process in Ghana. Thank you for staying with us. Let's now turn our attention to the power sector. Nigerians were on Wednesday plunged into darkness following another collapse of the national power grid. From January 2024 till November, the grid has collapsed 11 times. Within 1 week in October, the grid collapsed 3 times with its attendant blackouts, sparking reactions from Nigerians. A tweet via the official handle of Nigeria's national grid confirmed that the grid collapsed at about 2:09 p.m. on Wednesday. This collapse makes it a historic 12 times in a year that the grid has collapsed. Earlier, a former chairman of the Nigerian Electricity Regulatory Commission and director of the Abuja School of Social and Political Thoughts, Dr. Sam Amadi, spoke on this.
The grid collapses because the grids are frail. Nigerian grid is very frail, meaning you need to revamp them. Some of those lines ought to be, dilapidated. And so the lack of investment in upgrade, in revampment, it means that the grid is frail. Secondly, we have very low insufficient generation. So oftentimes there's no spirit reserves, there are no redundancies to cope with maybe some of the frequency problems. Again, distribution and transmission don't kind of have a good handshake. So sometimes loads are available, transmission network delivers, but the network cannot pick the load. Sometimes the disturbance from the distribution side that affected. And then, of course, now we talk about vandalism. Maybe once there was a fire outbreak along Abuja, Chiroro, that caused a serious grid collapse. So all these goes back to the same thing, which is that our grid is weak. The managerial capability, change management strategies are still poor.
To security matters now, Nigeria's Minister of Foreign Affairs has called for a joint and collaborative effort by ECOWAS member states to tackle insecurity, terrorism and transnational crime. This was during the ECOWAS Mediation and Security Council ministerial level meeting at the headquarters of the ECOWAS Commission in Abuja. The minister, who is also the chair of the council, expressed worry at the escalating threats of terrorism, violent extremism and transnational organized crime being witnessed by member states. The session is the 53rd since its inception and has in attendance members of the ECOWAS Mediation and Security Council of member states.
The escalating threats of terrorism, violent extremism, and transnational organized crime pose a shared burden that no single country can confront alone. These challenges underscore the necessity of collective action and regional cooperation. As the ECOWAS Regional Action Plan on the fight against terrorism concludes this year, this meeting offers a critical opportunity to chart a forward-looking strategy to bolster our collective security architecture and sustain the momentum in addressing these threats.
In Delta State, the Ukwama community is said to be mourning yet again following the reported death of its 81-year-old treasurer, Dennis Okubaye, in military detention just days after the President General, Pa James Ogboroko, died under similar circumstances. Though News Central Television cannot independently verify these claims, but it understood that both were among several leaders detained after the killing of 17 soldiers during a peace mission on March 14. The military's response left Ukwama devastated, forcing residents into displacement camp. Protests have reignited, with aggrieved youths issuing a 7-day ultimatum demanding the release of the detained leaders and Pa Ogboroko's corpse. Human rights groups are calling for justice, urging President Tinubu to investigate the deaths and military reprisals, which they describe as violations of human rights and the rule of law. Let's get some perspective now. We're joined by legal practitioner and public affairs analyst, Towo Osaruwoja. Towo, thank you very much for joining us. Members of this community are obviously angry and they are demanding justice over the deaths in military detention. What legal steps, if any, are there for them to take to get justice?
Well, if we recall the incident that happened in March 2024 in the Okoloma community, you discover that it's a sad day. And it's something that every reasonable Nigerian needs to condemn, because the armed forces or the army, they are the symbol of strength against external forces. And if we ridicule them in that manner, or if they are treated in that manner, we are bringing ourselves down before external forces, be that as it may. Then secondly, we should also look at the response of the Nigerian military, which also need to be condemned, because in every aspect of life, there should be a laid down law that governs every situation that happens. And the military as an institution is a law, should be, and is a law-abiding institution, which should be lived by example. So the legal remedy that is available to the community now is two things. One, the military does not have, they only have the general power of detention, which every civilian have. And that detention ought not to be with more than 24 hours. And they hand over such suspects to the police, who are basically responsible for internal security and prosecution of crime, prevention and prosecution of crime internally. Then two, the Nigerian army does not have the power or does not have the requisite skills to investigate issue of murder. Though the incident is condemnable, is something that every Nigerians believe that the perpetrators, if found, if convicted, should be given the worst punishment. But the military does not have such power, because even in the military law and in the military proceeding, murder or killing is regarded as a civil matter. Civil matter in the sense that if the officer is found wanting, he will be court-martialed and handed to the civil court, where he will be tried under the criminal law. So I'm surprised that the military are still keeping them in custody. And I'm also surprised that the Minister of Justice has not deemed it fit to meet with the Minister of Defense to see how those people will be translated into the normal criminal procedure for them to...
There is something actually a bit worrying. As you were talking, I was thinking about the fact that when this incident occurred in March, there was a lot of noise, a lot of attention, but that seemed to have diminished. And when you talk about the Ministry of Justice and the need for action, don't you think perhaps this lack of push, adequate push, not just from the community, but from Nigerians, might impact the kind of response that we get from the Nigerian government to the deaths of the community leaders, and impact perhaps the way they will handle those responsible?
No, I think that should be an underrating of our government, and also the people assigned when it comes to issue of protecting life and property, and when it comes to issue of the criminal justice system. Because such a thing, let me tell you one thing, is not only the victims in question, the soldiers that were killed. They are 19 in number. We are talking about a lieutenant colonel. We are talking about major. We are talking about captains. They were talking about soldiers. If you see the quantum amount of money Nigeria spent in taking care of them, this matter ought to get the needed attention. And as a matter of fact, if what is on now is what is going on, I think some people need to be sacked for not taking this matter seriously, because the family of the victims are looking forward for justice. The community is looking forward for justice. And Nigeria is also looking forward for justice. And if the process is not followed in line with law, I believe issues like this will occur again. I will pray never again should we record this. So I'm surprised, and I think that's why at this point in time, the media now need to come to the aid of not only the community alone, but the family of the soldiers that were killed, and also the military. Then they should also come into the aid of the Delta community as a whole. I believe the Delta senator, the senator representing Delta Central, which is Eddie Dapinune, has done a lot, because I saw his statement towards this matter. Then I believe the governor too need to do more in this regard to see that this issue is channeled and addressed properly in line with laid down laws in Nigeria.
Well, you and I both, and a whole lot of Nigerians. Thank you, as always, for giving us your time.
You're welcome.
To one of our headline stories tonight, the Federal Capital Territories High Court in Abuja issued an order of interim injunction prohibiting Lagos-based lawyer Dele Farotimi from publishing, selling, distributing, or advertising the book Nigeria and its Criminal Justice System in hard copy, digital, or soft copy. After hearing the claimant's ex parte plea by Senior Advocate of Nigeria, Kainde Ogunmiju, Managing Partner at Afe Babalola's legal practice, Justice Peter Kekeneke issued the order. Additionally, the judge temporarily barred the agents, publishers, distributors, sellers, republishers, resellers, and any other individual as described. The court issued the ruling while the motion on notice for interlocutory injunction, which was submitted on December 6, was being heard and decided. After that, the move-on notice for interlocutory injunction was postponed until January 7, 2025. Election stakeholders in Nigeria have accused political party agents of being complicit in recorded cases of violence witnessed during recent polls in the country. One group in Nigeria, while presenting its post-election report in the nation's capital for the recent Ondo State off-cycle governorship poll, alleged that some of them have been identified to have instigated violence during the election.
There were several reports of political party polling agents interfering in the process and doing beyond what the legal rules are. Polling agents were widely seen as a merchant of vote buying in most polling units, and 58% of the violent acts reported to the KDI election day data room were perpetrated by the party agents. There were instances where blatant vote buying by party agents led to clashes, notably in Ward 5 PU3 in Idore local government. In Ward 8 PU6 of Akoko Southeast local government, observers saw party agents fighting over who would assist an elderly man to vote. This call for concern and must be nipped in the bud before they grow out of wings.
With the understanding that Ondo 2024 election took place on the backdrop of lingering electoral challenges that were highlighted by CSOs, our civil society organization, in the 2024 Edo State governorship election, particularly issues of resource management, logistic inefficiency, and the integrity of the electoral process. The question is, are these elections the standard of credible democracy or credible election? Or is Nigeria merely lowering the bar for electoral excellence?
To the aviation sector, the Nigeria Safety Investigation Bureau, NSIB, has launched an investigation into a runway excursion involving a Boeing 737-400 cargo aircraft operated by Allied Air. The incident occurred Wednesday morning at Abuja's Nnamdi Azikiwe International Airport when the aircraft veered off runway 22 into a grass verge after landing. No injuries or fatalities were reported, but the plane experienced significant damage. Emergency response teams promptly secured the site. NSIB's GO team is now on site to recover data, assess the damage, and interview relevant parties. Director of Public Affairs, Mrs. Bimbo Oladeji, confirms the investigation aims to determine causes and recommend safety measures to prevent future occurrence. A set of shops around a popular old airport roundabout in Jos, Plateau State, was today burnt to ashes following a fire incident. Men and officers of Operation Safe Haven, the Nigerian police, and the fire service were commended for ensuring the fire did not escalate. News Center's Chizoba Anyowe reports that similar fire incident had occurred barely 3 weeks ago at the Katako market in North Jos local government area of the state.
Well, what you can see now is the rubble from the burnt shopping complex, which of course nobody knew was going to happen. You can see behind me, those are some of the shop owners trying to see whatever they can salvage from the burnt shops. In our subsequent bulletins, we'll let you know what the updates will be. In Jos for News Central, Chizoba Anyowe.
As the 16 days activism against gender-based violence comes to an end, stakeholders believe that the message and campaign to respect one another's rights will be impactful on the lives of men and women alike. The Abia State government and civil society groups actively participated in the 2024 campaign to end violence against men and women. News Center's Chinwe Ugele has the report from the summit to mark the end of the 16 days activism on gender-based violence.
Love that my husband has This story by Phoebe Onchekwa, a survivor of violence, reflects the story of lots of women in our cultures as Nigerians. The messages by the speakers at the summit of the 16 days activism against gender-based violence in Umuahia, Abia State focus on rights and overcoming temptation to abuse people. Wife of Abia State Governor Priscilla Oti is confident that the Violence Against Persons Prohibition Law will become more useful when the people in the hinterlands become more aware of its existence.
To operationalize the VAP law, we are committed to community sensitization to ensure that everyone understands the provisions of the VAP law and how to utilize it to protect their rights.
Some people are, however, worried that the vulnerability of the female folk places them more at the receiving end of violence from their husbands, colleagues, and male friends.
It's more against the women. Most times, men want to subject women to become the lesser vessel. It will help everybody. If the women most especially know your rights, know who you are. You are not just a commodity to be beaten. You are not you are not bots. Marriage is two-way thing, and not just in marriage, even in schools.
They have taken that position that already they are culturally subordinated, they are economically subordinated, so they don't have any rights anymore. No, they should rise up.
Often people forget that even men get abused by women and fellow men in different ways, but hardly speak out due to societal perception.
Women and girls are vulnerable, and they are also the ones who are always speaking up as against the men who would always die with this negative masculinity that has been taught over the years.
For this 2024 program, the optimism from the civil society groups and the masses that there will be a drop in cases of gender-based violence come next year is the success story.
What it shows is that we've won the war already, for me, against gender-based violence, and it's going to be reduced drastically.
No one deserves to be hurt physically, psychologically, and emotionally. Hence the need to understand that everyone is entitled to being respected, irrespective of gender. In Umuahia for News Central, I am Chinwe Ugeli.
Many thanks, Chinwe. Still ahead, Akufo-Addo Mahama begins transition process in Ghana. We'll tell you more when we come back. Do stay with us. The news continues in West Africa. President-elect John Mahama and Vice President-elect met outgoing President Nana Akufo-Addo at Jubilee House on Wednesday to begin the power transition process. The meeting followed Akufo-Addo's formal invitation, reaffirming his commitment to a smooth handover as Mahama prepares to take office on January 7, 2025. Akufo-Addo emphasized the importance of a peaceful transition, calling it a hallmark of Ghana's democratic excellence. Mahama's transition team is led by Julius Deborah.
People which respects human rights and the rule of law, and where we are all secure in our daily lives. We've spoken a little bit about the issues that have occurred, the seeming lawlessness that has taken place over the thing, and I express my happiness at his intervention yesterday in speaking to the country about what was going on, and the reinforcing of the authority of the state to make sure that these matters are dealt with. So this is the reason why he's here.
Dangote Refinery and Neptune Oil have announced the first export of premium motor spirit, commonly known as petrol, from Dangote Refinery, Africa's largest oil refinery, to Cameroon. This milestone, achieved through a strategic collaboration between the two companies, highlights their commitment to fostering stronger economic ties between Nigeria and Cameroon while addressing the region's growing energy demands. Aliko Dangote, president and CEO of Dangote Group, said the first export of PMS to Cameroon is a tangible demonstration of their vision for a united and energy-independent Africa. Let's join our business desk now for the rest of today's business update.
Business news in association with Money Master PSB, the easy way to master your money.
In business, President Bola Tinubu has pledged to deepen economic ties with Germany, focusing on green energy and diversification. The nations reaffirmed a €4 billion investment in green energy by 2030, boosting Nigeria's bid for economic transformation. Germany's plans to import Nigerian green hydrogen also positions Nigeria as a key player in carbon neutrality efforts. Tinubu emphasized ongoing reforms to attract foreign investment and enhance bilateral trade, building on Germany's imports of Nigerian crude and cocoa. Both governments aim to foster mutual prosperity through robust business collaboration. Nigeria's economy contracted for the second consecutive month as November's PMI fell to 48.9, signaling subdued activity. Declines in key metrics, output, new orders, and employment reflect a slowdown across sectors. Agriculture showed resilience, but industry and services sectors lagged. Transportation and warehousing faced steep declines. Analysts warn of underlying economic pressures, including weak demand and supply chain issues, urging policy interventions to prevent further contraction. The November downturn raises concerns about sustained economic challenges as businesses await December's performance to gauge potential recovery. And still in Nigeria, oil production surged to 1.69 million barrels per day in November, the highest since April 2021. Crude production averaged 1.48 million barrels per day, complemented by significant condensate output. The rebound comes as the Nigerian Upstream Petroleum Regulatory Commission reports progress in stabilizing production levels. Analysts see this as a positive signal for economic recovery and government revenues, although sustaining the momentum will depend on addressing operational and geopolitical challenges in the oil sector. And outside the continent, China's pivot to Brazilian staples amid ongoing trade tensions poses new threats to U.S. farmers. Diversified sourcing and record Chinese soybean stocks undermine U.S. export recovery efforts. Previously hurt by Trump's trade policies, U.S. growers now face a potential second blow as China reduces reliance on American wheat, corn, and cotton. Lower commodity prices compound challenges for farmers. An analyst warned that a renewed trade war risks long-term shifts in global market dynamics, further marginalizing U.S. agriculture in favor of more competitive exporters. Finally, U.S. consumer prices increased by 0.3% in November, the largest gain in 7 months, driven by rising food and lodging costs. Core inflation, excluding food and energy, remained steady at 0.3%. Annual inflation reached 2.7%, up slightly from 2.6% in October. Notably, rent increases slowed to the lowest pace since 2021, signaling easing pressures. However, risks from trade policies and fiscal changes could offset progress, keeping the Fed cautious on additional monetary easing in 2024. And that's our offering on business news at this time. Thank you for watching. I am Perpetua Fasami Peter. The news continues shortly.
Business news in association with Money Master PSB, the easy way to master your money.
Up next is sports.
Sports Update, brought to you by Corn Oil. Corn Oil, we go the extra mile.
Hello and welcome. This is Sports News. The president of British Fencing, Patricia Ayenuru, will be one of the officials attending the 2024 Men's Junior EP Fencing World Cup, scheduled for the 14th to the 15th of December at Charterhouse, Lagos. Ayenuru, who succeeded Hilary Fiblin after 3 terms, has been a pivotal figure in the fencing community. Elected to the BF board in 2020, she served on the International Relations Committee and has extensive experience, including 17 years of volunteering in various capacities. ITTF Africa has entered into a strategic quadrennial agreement with the International Table Tennis Federation (ITTF) for the period 2025 to 2028. The partnership underscores a unified commitment to advancing table tennis in the continent of Africa. The agreement, which promises enhanced funding, outlines collaborative efforts between ITTF Africa and ITTF to promote and develop table tennis in Africa. The signing ceremony took place on December 7, 2024 in Chengdu, China, with ITTF Africa President Wide Eniton Oshodi and ITTF President Petra Solin in attendance. Nigeria international goalkeeper Maduka Okoye has successfully undergone surgery to repair a wrist injury. Okoye sustained the injury during Udinese's Italian Serie A match against Genoa on Sunday. The club have since issued the following statement indicating that Okoye underwent surgery to repair damage to a ligament in his right wrist. The player himself has released a statement on social media announcing the success of the procedure. Okoye was between the sticks as Nigeria wrapped up the year 2024 with a 2-1 defeat to Rwanda in the 2025 AFCON qualifier on the 18th of November. It remains to be seen whether the 25-year-old will recover in time before Nigeria's 2026 FIFA World Cup qualifiers against Zimbabwe and Rwanda in March 2025. FIFA have officially announced Saudi Arabia as the host of the FIFA World Cup 2034. The FIFA Extraordinary Congress meeting held on Wednesday also confirmed Morocco, Spain and Portugal as hosts of the 2030 World Cup with Uruguay, Argentina and Paraguay staging celebratory games. The FIFA Extraordinary Congress meeting held on Wednesday also confirmed Morocco, Spain and Portugal as hosts of the 2030 World Cup, with Uruguay, Argentina and Paraguay staging celebratory games. All 211 of FIFA's member nations were represented at the meeting over a video link. Saudi Arabia will become the second Middle Eastern nation to host the tournament after Qatar staged the tournament in 2022. The 2034 edition will stage the first ever 48-team tournament in a single host country. Matches will be held across 15 stadiums in 5 host cities in Saudi Arabia: Riyadh, Jeddah, Koba, Aba, and Neom. Riyadh's King Salman Stadium, with a 92,000 spectator capacity, is expected to be the venue for the opening and final matches once constructed. And that's all on sports tonight. On New Central Television, Okpeoluwa Adebari.
Sports Update, brought to you by Corn Oil. Corn Oil, we go the extra mile.
Let's bring you entertainment news now.
Entertainment news in association with Glow Unlimited.
Tonight on Entertainment News, the Federal Executive Council under President Bola Ahmed Tinubu has approved the establishment of the Creative Economy Development Fund, CEDF, and the Intellectual Property IP Monetization Pilot. The initiative, led by Minister of Arts, Culture and Creative Economy, Barrister Hannatu Musa Musawa, aims to empower young creatives in Nigeria by providing funds through various financial instruments such as debts, equity, and quasi-equity. The fund will help people use their intellectual property IP as collateral for financing, making it easier for them to access funds. The IP monetization pilot, developed with the African Development Bank IDICE program, will provide insights to help create a national IP monetization framework, which will be integrated into Nigeria's national IP policy. The goal is to empower young creatives, promote national identity, and drive economic growth. The CEDF Act, once passed, will establish sustainable funding and governance structures, attract multilateral donations, and help build a strong IP asset base. The success of the CEDF will be measured by its ability to facilitate IP collateralization, improve access to funding, and develop standardized IP valuation frameworks, fostering a thriving creative business ecosystem. Tyler, the 22-year-old South African singer-songwriter, has had an extraordinary 2024 filled with historic milestones and growing global recognition. She was recently crowned Entertainer of the Year at the 7th Annual GQ Men of the Year Awards in Johannesburg, where she was celebrated for her raw talent, commercial success, and international influence. Known for blending Afrobeats, pop, and R&B, Tyler's unique sound has helped her rise as a global icon. GQ praised her for redefining what it means to be a global star, acknowledging her authenticity and ability to stay true to her roots while connecting with her fans worldwide. In addition to this prestigious honor, Tyler's breakthrough single, Water, has achieved 3-time platinum status for the Recording Industry Association of America, RIAA, marking a significant milestone with 3 million sales in the U.S. It is a higher certified track to date. Tyler's other hit, Truth or Dare, also gained recognition, being certified gold for 500,000 sales in the U.S. This accomplishment reflects not only her musical talent, but also her rising influence on the global stage. That's all on Entertainment Tonight.
News in association with Glow Unlimited.
Moving away from entertainment, let's take a look at what's trending as the hashtag National Grid is trending, and here's why. Following the sudden outage of power earlier today, Nigerians are wondering if this is another or the final episode of the national grid collapse, as the nation has experienced more than 11 national grid collapses in 2024. Let's read some reactions. At Erinya David, the way this light just kept blinking for almost 2 minutes before it finally went off. I hope it's not National Grid. Coincidentally, I was on the phone with my friend in Lagos, and she confirmed the same incident at the same time. So I ask again, National Grid, is that you? At the Dami Foreign, now the 175th time where National Grid will collapse this year be this. That's all on what's trending.
Funny, not funny, with the nation's grid collapsing so often. That's all we have for you tonight, but before we go, let's take another look at some of the major stories. President Bola Tinubu prioritizes diplomacy for reintegration of Mali, Niger, Burkina Faso to ECOWAS as German president visits Nigeria. Court holds further sale publication of Dele Faroutimi's book. And National Grid collapses for the 12th time in 2024. Off our shores, Akufo-Addo Mahama begin transition process in Ghana. You can catch up on all the latest stories by watching News Central live on DSTV channel 422, Star Times channel 274, Apple TV, and on YouTube. Thank you for your kind attention. Have a good night.